RAM used to be one of the least stressful parts of building a gaming PC. You pick 16 or 32 gigabytes, check that they work with your motherboard, maybe spent a little extra for some unnecessary RGB, and moved on with your life. But over the past year, memory prices have started moving in a completely different direction. Contract prices have surged, older DDR4 products are becoming harder to source, manufacturers are prioritizing servers and artificial intelligence, and the companies producing almost all of the world's DRAM are enjoying an extraordinary amount of pricing power. And now the situation has escalated beyond angry Reddit posts and frustrated PC builders. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, the three companies controlling almost the entire global DRAM market, have been hit with a proposed class action lawsuit accusing them of deliberately restricting supply and inflation prices. To be completely clear from the beginning, these are allegations. The companies have not been found guilty in this case, and a previous lawsuit making similar claims was dismissed. But when the same three companies dominate nearly 90% of a market, simultaneously move production towards more profitable products, and begin charging dramatically higher prices, people are obviously going to start asking questions. So what is genuinely causing RAM prices to rise? Is this simply the unavoidable result of the AI boom, or are consumers watching three enormous companies quietly discover that scarcity is much more profitable than competition? The first thing that we need to understand is that the RAM market is much smaller than it appears. Walk into a computer shop and you will see memory sold under dozens of different names: Corsair, Kingston, G-Skill, Team Group, Patriot, and plenty of others all sell RAM kits. But most of these businesses are not manufacturing the actual DRAM chips. The chips themselves overwhelmingly come from Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. According to TrendForce's figures for the first quarter of 2026, Samsung controlled 38.5% of DRAM revenue, SK Hynix held 28.8%, and Micron had 22.4%. Combined, that is approximately 89.7% of the market controlled by just three companies. This is important because building a serious DRAM manufacturing operation is not like launching another gaming accessory brand. You need cutting-edge fabrication plants, specialist equipment, proprietary technology, experienced engineers, and tens of billions of dollars. Even with unlimited funding, increasing production can take years. There is no small challenger waiting in a warehouse somewhere, ready to flood the market with cheap DDR5. When Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron reduce supply, shift production, or prioritize certain customers, the rest of the industry has very few alternatives. There is a legitimate economic explanation for at least part of this crisis. Artificial intelligence requires an absurd amount of memory. AI accelerators use high bandwidth memory, or HBM, which allows enormous quantities of data to move quickly between memory and processors. Companies including Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta are investing huge amounts of money into AI infrastructure, and all of that infrastructure needs memory. The problem is that HBM and conventional DRAM compete for manufacturing resources. When a manufacturer assigns more factory capacity to HBM, server, DDR5, and other high-margin products, less capacity is available for ordinary desktop memory, laptops, smartphones, and older DDR4 devices. TrendForce says suppliers have been reallocating production towards HBM and server applications. It forecasts conventional DRAM contract prices rising by 58% to 63%. Quarter on quarter during the second quarter of 2026, despite weakening demand in parts of the consumer PC market. Consumer DRAM has been hit especially hard because it's often lower margin than server memory. TrendForce forecast consumer DRAM contract prices increasing by another 45 to 50% in the second quarter, with DDR3 and DDR2 products also experiencing substantial price increases as buyers search for alternatives. Samsung had already reportedly increased prices for certain memory chips by as much as 60% in late 2025. One 32GB DDR5 server module was reported as rising from $149 in September to $239 in November. Then at the beginning of 2026, reports claimed Samsung and SK Hynix were proposing first quarter server DRAM price increases of between 60% and 70% to major customers. So this is not an imaginary crisis. The supply is genuinely tight. AI companies are genuinely consuming huge amounts of memory. New factories cannot appear overnight, and manufacturers naturally want to sell their limited production to whichever customers will pay the most. The question raised by the lawsuit is whether the companies are simply responding independently to the same market conditions, or whether they have coordinated their behavior to make the shortage even worse. The case Garcia-Guaya versus Samsung Electronics, I might be butchering that name, was filed on June 25th, 2026 in the US District Court for the Northern District of California. 17 plaintiffs, including individual consumers and small computer businesses, have accused Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron of violating American antitrust law by coordinating restrictions on conventional DRAM supply. They are seeking class action status, an injunction, and triple damages. The complaint claims the companies used the transition towards HBM as cover to reduce production of conventional memory, particularly old DDR3 and DDR4 products. It alleges that the three manufacturers simultaneously cut production, redirected capacity, and allowed conventional DRAM prices to rise by roughly 700% over 4 years. That 700% number needs an enormous warning label attached to it. It comes from the lawsuit's allegations. It should not be treated as an independently proven description of every RAM product on the market. The retail price of a 32GB gaming kit has not necessarily increased by 700%. Different forms of DRAM have different contract prices, densities, customers, and supply chains. Upstream chip prices also do not translate directly or immediately into identical retail increases. But even without accepting the lawsuit's most dramatic number, there is overwhelming evidence that contract prices have risen sharply and that consumer products are being squeezed by the industries focused on AI and servers. The plaintiff's argument is essentially this: a genuine increase in AI demand created the perfect opportunity for the manufacturers to reduce ordinary DRAM supply further than necessary. In other words, the lawsuit is not claiming that the AI shortage is completely fake. It is claiming the shortage may have been strategically exploited. There is another side to this. Producing too much memory can be financially disastrous. The DRAM industry has historically moved through brutal boom and bust cycles. When manufacturers expand too aggressively, the market becomes oversupplied. Prices collapse and billions of dollars can disappear extremely quick. That happened during the industry downturn in 2023, when excess inventory crushed memory prices and manufacturers were forced to reduce investment and production. From the company's perspective, moving capacity towards the HBM is not evidence of conspiracy. It is basic business. AI customers are demanding more advanced memory, signing long-term agreements, and sometimes contributing money towards future capacity. Micron recently announced $22 billion in customer commitments, with agreements involving minimum purchases, deposits, and pricing protections. It expects memory supplies to remain tight beyond 2027. Why would a company use scarce factory space to produce cheap legacy memory when server customers are offering a long-term contract for much more profitable products? That may be frustrating for consumers, but frustrating business decisions are not automatically illegal. Three companies can observe the same demand, face the same manufacturing limitations, and independently reach the same conclusions. That is exactly what makes an antitrust case like this difficult. The suspicions surrounding this industry are not appearing from nowhere. Samsung and Hynix have previously admitted to participating in an international DRAM price-fixing conspiracy. In 2005, Samsung agreed to plead guilty and pay a $300 million criminal fine. Hynix had already pleaded guilty and received a $185 million fine. The US Department of Justice said manufacturers had held discussions, agreed on pricing levels, and exchanged sales information relating to DRAM sold to major computer companies. That history obviously does not prove that the current companies are doing the same thing again. You cannot convict a company today simply because related businesses behaved illegally more than 2 decades ago. But it does explain why consumers are not giving the industry unlimited benefit of the doubt. There was also another class action case accusing Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron of coordinating production reductions during the previous DRAM price surge. That lawsuit failed. In 2022, the Ninth Circuit upheld its dismissal, concluding that parallel production cuts and public statements were not enough to plausibly establish an illegal agreement. The court said that the company's decision could be explained by rational, independent attempts to protect profitability after years of oversupply. That previous decision may become the biggest obstacle facing this new case. It is not enough for the plaintiffs to show that all three companies reduced supply. They will need to produce something more convincing: communications, internal documents, suspicious meetings, coordinated commitments, or another factual link indicating that the companies agreed to act together. Three businesses behaving similarly is not automatically collusion, especially when all three are responding to the same market. Even though the lawsuit focuses on DRAM chips, the effect travels through the entire technology industry. Higher memory costs can increase the price of desktop RAM. Gaming laptops, graphics cards, smartphones, consoles, servers, and pre-built PCs. Manufacturers may also avoid direct price increases by quietly reducing specifications. A laptop that previously included 32 gigabytes might ship with 16 gigabytes. A budget phone might receive less memory than originally planned. RAM could become soldered to more devices, allowing manufacturers to control configurations and charge enormous premiums for upgrades. And older DDR4 systems are not necessarily protected. As major manufacturers phase out mature products and redirect production towards DDR5, server memory, and HBM, remaining DDR4 supply can become more expensive rather than cheaper. That completely reverses what consumers normally expect from aging technology. Usually, an older standard becomes affordable as the industry moves forward, but when production disappears faster than demand, old technology can suddenly become a limited commodity. Whether this particular lawsuit succeeds or fails, it exposes a genuine weakness in the technology industry. Almost every modern electronic device relies on memory, yet approximately 90% of the DRAM market is controlled by 3 suppliers. That does not automatically mean those suppliers are behaving illegally, but it does mean that the consumer is extremely vulnerable to their decisions. When the same 3 companies control nearly all production, genuine scarcity and strategic scarcity can become almost impossible to separate from the outside. A manufacturer can truthfully say that the AI demand is overwhelming supply, whilst almost choosing not to expand consumer production because high prices are extremely profitable. Both things can be true at the same time. The companies do not need to sit in a dark room and draw up an evil master plan to benefit from a market where every major participant understands that increasing supply could destroy everybody's pricing power. That is what makes concentrated markets so uncomfortable. Even completely independent behavior can produce an outcome that feels almost indistinguishable from coordination. The RAM price crisis is not caused by one simple villain. AI demand is real. HBM production is consuming capacity. New factories take years to build, and the memory industry is understandably terrified of repeating the oversupply disasters of the past. But consumers are also justified in being suspicious. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron control almost the entire market. Prices have increased dramatically. Consumer and legacy products are being deprioritized, while manufacturers enjoy higher margins and unprecedented long-term agreements. Now, those companies are being accused of turning a genuine shortage into an artificially profitable one. Whether the plaintiffs can actually prove coordination is another matter. Previous lawsuits have failed because similar conduct does not necessarily mean an illegal agreement exists. But even if this case is dismissed, the underlying problem remains. The entire technology industry depends on a component produced almost exclusively by 3 corporations. When those corporations decide that ordinary consumer memory is no longer their priority, everybody else pays the price. Your next RAM upgrade may cost more. Your next laptop may include less memory, and your next console or graphics card may become more and more expensive. And while the industry continues pouring billions into artificial intelligence, ordinary consumers may discover that the cheapest part of building a PC is no longer cheap at all. The RAM apocalypse might not be the result of a secret cartel, but when the 3 companies control almost everything, they may not need one.